Welcome to the review, a mini episode from Full Dive Gaming Podcast. In the review, we choose a single VR game, dive on into it, giving you all the details, and then a yay or nay on whether or not we think you should buy it. This episode is Jay and Nat discussing Superhot VR. Nat, what is Superhot VR?
Superhot VR is a time-bending shooter with puzzle elements. I usually think of it as kind of a matrix simulator. You're kind of moving around in different time stuff happening, feels kind of matrixy. So the premise behind the game is that time only moves when you move. And this game actually started out as a flat game. So I never played it as a flat game. I've really enjoyed it as a VR game. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the background before we jump in.
Yeah, so it was back in 2016, I want to say, that Superhot VR first came out, and it was earlier that year that a game called Superhot had come out. And even Superhot FLAT was a big deal because the way it worked, you had these levels you had to traverse through, but you had enemies all throughout the level that would be shooting bullets at you, and the bullets would only move whenever you moved your character in the flat game. So when you hit your joystick or you press WASD, then the bullet would continue its path towards you. So you had to learn to move the directions where you wouldn't get shot while firing shots at them and traverse a whole level. They redesigned this for virtual reality, which is a lot different than the original game, because in VR, no matter how steady you're trying to be, how still you're trying to be, you're always moving at least a little tiny bit. Our bodies don't stay super still. So you end up starting out in a level and you'll see three enemies around you. One has a knife, one has a gun, and one just has their bare hands. And they'll be approaching you, and you're trying to move as little as possible while just looking around with your eyes or your head and trying to assess, okay, what weapon do I need to get? Who am I going to kill first so that I don't get shot? And how am I going to have enough time to dodge a shot if they try and shoot me? And just like you said, it's kind of like in the Matrix, that scene where you see Neo drop back and dodge bullets, and you're doing stuff just like that in this. And the game, you might look at it, if you haven't heard of it, that's hard to imagine, but you might look at it and think, oh, it doesn't look very good. You're in these white environments with these red characters. They just look all polygonal coming at you, but that's what it's designed to be, because it's supposed to be that you're inside of this computer simulation trying to hack this system through this. And it's very, very immersive. The moment you're in it, you're trying not to get hit, and it's really cool. We actually first played this on the PSVR years ago. What was that like?
Yeah, I would say it was an awesome experience on the PSVR back in the day. I think that was one of the first games we got, and it was really cool because I think that was one of the first games we had that was a game that's around movement. Because, of course, there's other VR games that movement is kind of part of it, but it's not like the whole game. And so it was really cool back when we first got it. That was before we had, I think Beat Saber was a thing at that point, but we hadn't had it yet. So It was really cool to have kind of an exercise type game, although that's not the purpose of it. And it kind of, you get out what you get into it as far as exercise goes. But I just remember that being a really exciting experience, especially for when we had people over. That was really nice too with the PSVR, is that the way it's set up, all the other people that are coming over can see what's going on the TV screen while the person's in VR. So it really brings everyone together into the fun. And it was really fun one of the things that was fun about it was seeing other people going into the game. And I swear this is one of the few VR games where anyone doing it actually looks cool. I know a lot of people, playing Beat Saber, some people look cool playing it, some not so much. But in Superhot, you just can't help looking cool when you're like throwing ninja stars. Even when people see you outside the game, like, people look cool playing this game.
Yeah, it's totally true. A lot of people say, oh, VR looks so dorky. And Superhot's one of the ones where it really doesn't. You see people dodging bullets. You see people throwing knives, and it looks like cool motion. Also because they're doing it kind of in slow motion. You don't want to throw a knife at full speed, because if you move too fast, you're going to allow too much time to pass, and you may end up getting shot or something. When you go into every level, though, you don't have a gun. You don't have a weapon necessarily starting out. You have to look around you, and that's where this kind of becomes a puzzler as well. You look around, you have to assess what is in my immediate reach, or what enemy has a weapon that I could possibly get from them if I take 3 steps to the right or if I wait for them to come to me. And so you have to strategize your entire way through each mini level, and it becomes more puzzling than you would have thought. It's not just a straight up shooter. You have to think about it. And each time this level restarts, if you die, they may not move exactly the same way they did last time. So it's a little different each time you go into it, which keeps the game fresh, keeps it really exciting. One thing that I will mention out there, because we've showed this game to a lot of people, some people get a little rage quitty because the way the game was designed, you had, the flat game, you had this one level you were trying to move through, and if you got shot and you died, you just restart that area and you start moving through it again. But the way they redid that for VR was you still have these levels, but there's no locomotion, there's no free movement besides where your body moves. So you'll be standing like in the front of an airplane, and you have to kill the few people around you, and then it'll jump to the next part of the airplane where you have to kill those people. But the problem is you have to like finish the entire airplane before it goes super hot and then moves you on to the next level. So you may have done 3 or 4 puzzles and get to the last one. You keep dying the last one. Every time you die there, you have to redo those first 3 or 4 puzzles again. And that can get very frustrating. If you're in the same one 15, 20 times over, you can't get past it. And you're always making it right to the end. So where it's hard to say that we've had so many people try this. I wouldn't say like, oh, no one's ever not had a good time. A few people have had a bad time because they got frustrated and rage quit when that kept happening.
They start out having a good time, and then they end up not having a good time. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I've definitely been one of those rage quitters after a while. Like I'll be having so much fun and like, oh man, I'm doing so well. And I get to one part where it's like you said, you get through like 3 sections and it's like the last or second to last section and you just can't get it. And you do it so many times and you're like, and you're also moving around. So I feel like that kind of adds to it. It's like, getting your blood pumping and stuff is just adding to this frustration. And it just gets to the point where you're just like, okay, I am done with this. Caution, if you're having friends play it, you got to make sure they're not throwing the headset off when they rage quit.
Yeah, they don't throw that at the controllers. Also, you have to be cautious because they move around. You move around in these environments. And even on PSVR, it does not keep you in one place. Yeah. So you need to be prepared. They're going to move around. They're going to be swinging fists. Give them a lot of space if you're going to be putting someone into place or playing it yourself. This is a TV destroyer for sure. If you're not careful. This is a good
one to have like a Playspace mat or something so that you can feel if you get out of the safety zone.
Yeah, tell them do not. If you step off this mat, you get back on this mat. You do not run across the room and crash into something.
Yes.
There was one thing that I've always kind of thought the game was missing, and I still feel that way in going back and playing it again. Music.
True.
Yeah, the game does not have a soundtrack, or at least if it does, it's very mild. It's not very noticeable. And it kind of makes sense because they're trying to show you can freeze time, and maybe they thought it'd be weird to have music keep going, or maybe the music would stop if you tried to freeze time, and that would be weird. But I will say, if you're going to play this game, I would put on the Matrix soundtrack, some sort of action music, and just have fun with that music on, because it just makes it feel so much more badass when you have, a really good music that you're moving to. There was I don't remember if it was IGN or one of the other big publications, but they said playing this game, you feel like a beautiful ballerina of death is what you are, because you're kind of moving slow. So you're kind of dancing around the room, trying to kill everybody in the room. But at the same time, there are these very graceful and slow, methodical movements you're doing. So it is really cool.
That is so true. And yeah, that's a really good point that I didn't really think about, because we usually do put music on when we play it. It definitely feels cooler when you have music going. And you told me that before the ballerina of death thing. And I was like, oh yeah, I was thinking of that. Like, oh man, ballerina of death. And then it got to one of those situations where I had done like 3 or 4 sections of a level and was getting to that rage quit point. I'm like, okay, I'm no longer a ballerina of death. I just hate everything.
Yeah.
So you feel like a ballerina of death until you're not doing a good job.
Yeah, it's great as long as you're moving through it. But one other thing to take into consideration, if you are moving through it and you're progressing well, the whole campaign, it's a single player campaign, it's going to take you maybe 2 hours to get through the
Mhm.
entire game. And that could even be on your first time. I've had people over who've never played this and they were able to beat the whole game in doing so. And yes, there are other modes. There's endless modes. There's no weapons. There's different other modes you can play. But ultimately, that first time you play it, those first 2 hours you go through that campaign is going to be the most special time. And it
Mhm.
may or may not have a lot of replay value. What do you think, Nat? Does it have replay value? Because you played it a couple times.
Oh, yeah. I think it definitely has replay value, especially for people like me that have a terrible memory. Because I hadn't played it in a while and came back and played it, and I remembered some of the levels that, I'd had a hard time with in the past, but some of them I didn't really remember at all, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, how cool is this?" So, if you have a bad memory, just, put it on the back burner for a little while, come back to it, a few months later and be like, "Wow, all new game. Ah, are these new levels
Mm-hmm.
they added? No, I just have a terrible memory." So, and I think even if you don't have a terrible memory, it still has replayability in it because it's just fun to go through. And like you said, it has all these different modes. It has cool little trophies that you get if you do different things like
Yep.
you shoot the people and you're not looking and you get like I don't remember what it's called, but some kind of trophy for that. So, and it just always just feels really cool, I think.
Yeah.
So, and again, I mean, it's not like exercise like if you're doing Beat Saber or something, but it kind of gets your body moving, which just feels nice. So, and you just feel cool. You just feel cool doing it. And there is, like you said before, there is some variation when you go through it, even if it's, the same levels that you're going through. If you move a different way, the people in the game are going to move a little bit differently too. So it's not like it's exactly the same every time. So
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah, there is some variety to how the game plays out. And we refreshed on the game by playing on the Quest, even though I played it a lot on the PSVR. We went back, played on the Quest. I cleared out a bunch of space in our garage and just set up all this space. But you can tell when you try to play it like that, that this wasn't built with the Quest in mind.
Mhm.
Because what happens is you set up this big player on the Quest, but if you move around in that play area after you complete each little submission, the next one starts from wherever you're standing. It doesn't have you recenter or get back to the middle. So you'll kind of work your way across your play space no matter what you're doing and end up punching a wall or hitting
Yep.
something. So it's not exactly a free roam play room scale play space style game. Even if you're playing on PC, PSVR Quest, it's really not. I feel like they should have added something where it says, okay, get back to this circle and then the next puzzle will start.
Yeah.
Because you end up out of place and it is a little dangerous.
Yes. I definitely noticed that too. So I kind of stopped trying to move
Mm-hmm.
around. I was just like, I'm just going to stay in my little space because there's going to be some danger if I move out of it. Because you're, you know, putting your arms out a lot and stuff and like
Mm-hmm.
ducking, dodging, you can end up in some unsafe
Yeah,
areas.
you're
Even if you're
reaching
staying within your
far.
play space. Yeah.
You're reaching
Hmm.
far for a gun and you're going to get yourself into trouble. You're going to hit something. I think I hit the garage door once, even though I had the play space set up to warn me I was over there. I still ended up doing it because I was just trying to quickly grab someone's gun. And so
Yep.
it is a fun game, but it definitely is a little too immersive at times.
You
Game
just get so into it.
Game claims to be $25, although this game has been out for years. So depending on what platform you're on, you can find it sometimes on sale for way less than that. I saw codes today for under $10 to get this game. So you can
Mhm.
get it for a very low price. And there's a reason that it's one of the top selling games. It's one of the most popular games even still. It brings something truly unique to VR that you
Mm.
don't really see anywhere else yet. And that's why I was really hoping when Superhot made an expansion to the original Flat game, they were going to make some more VR. I'm still fingers crossed we'll see it because it is such a badass experience. There's no other game VR that makes you feel as cool. Maybe Pistol Whip is close, but there's no other game that makes you feel as cool when you're playing the game as Superhot.
It's so true. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that it's not just your typical shooter because I get
Mm-hmm.
sick of everything being a shooter. And it's just nice that there's variety. You got ninja stars, you got knives, you got your throwing punches, you got axes. There's all these. This seems so terrible because, like, what's also nice about it is that the figures that you're killing are just kind of like red, like basic humany shapes. So you also don't feel like a terrible person
Mm-hmm.
killing a bunch of people, because they don't really look like people. They just look
Yeah.
like kind of red, vaguely human-shaped things. So you can really enjoy yourself feeling cool while not feeling like a terrible person, which is nice. I appreciate
Definitely.
that.
I feel like we've covered pretty much everything. Is there anything before we give this a yay or nay you think we should touch on?
I think we talked about how time only moves when you move a little bit, but I just really like that mechanic because I feel like you can get so creative with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw you one time kind of moving your arm, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really realize that. I thought you had to move, like, I don't know, your body when you're doing it. So there's just so many things you can do with that time mechanic that I think is so cool.
Yeah, and if we didn't go far enough into that, I'll kind of give it a brief overview for those of you listening. So basically, like a level will start, and you'll see 3 enemies. They might have guns in their hands, all standing 8 feet in front of you. So you can't quite reach them yet. So what I'll be doing a lot of times at the start of a level is I'll be keeping my eye on all 3 of them, and I'll be twisting my wrist slowly on one of my hands, basically like I'm winding time forward with my hand as I go, and that is actually causing time to progress. And if I see one of them starts to pull the trigger, I'll stop my hand because I know their bullet's about to come out of their barrel, and then I'll move my head and body to the side slowly so that their bullet will zing past me, and then I'll go back to moving my hand again just till one of them gets close enough that I can reach out and grab their gun and then shoot all of them with that gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're really in control, but the problem is sometimes someone shoots and you try to quickly dodge that shot, and that motion progresses too much time to where you end up getting shot by someone else.
Yes.
So you really have to learn this balance of barely moving or moving slowly to keep control of everything that's happening around you. It's pretty wild.
And you really have to use your peripherals and look around, because I have had times where I was like, oh man, I'm getting this person right here. And like you said, do like a quick movement, but there's someone over here that gets you. So
yep.
Yeah.
That's where it's a little bit worse of an experience on the Quest with its tiny field of view. If you were on like a Valve Index or something, you're going to get a little better experience because you can see a lot more what's going on around you. In the Quest, I noticed I really had to turn my head slowly to map out the whole scene before I started moving, or I would end up getting killed.
I found myself doing that a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm not making any movements. I'm just going to slowly look to the left, look to the right. Okay, now I know what's going on.
Well, yeah, I think we're ready at this point. Are you ready for a countdown? 3,
ready.
2, 1, yay. It's an easy yay. Game's been around forever. Tons of people love it. If you haven't heard of it, that's hard to imagine. But if you haven't gotten it and you've been waiting, I'd watch for a sale because it does go on sale at least, or watch for a bundle if you're looking on Quest that comes with it, because it's absolutely worth getting. Even if you only play it once and you just use it to demo VR to people, it's a great demo because it doesn't make people motion sick at all because you're only using your own body movement. It's really cool. It's really fun. And there's a little bit of fitness element because you are moving around, squatting and dodging. And it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Definitely worth it, I would say. I think even more worth it if you get it on sale.
Yeah, that's only going to help you. What do you think out there? Have you played Superhot? Have you been thinking about it? Come join the Discord and let us know what you're thinking. It's a really cool game. There's no multiplayer element, but man, I wish there'd be one because I'd love to find a way to play this with other people. But it is such a cool game. If you want to go a step further and you're enjoying the podcast, you're enjoying these review episodes, you can support us on Patreon. And Nat, what do people got to do whenever they're playing VR?
Gotta dive on in.
Dive on in. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.